Hey there, in this video I want to go into why mindfulness makes us happy. In many ways, mindfulness can be thought of as the vehicle or as the mechanism that brings meditation from a formal practice that we do in typically a seated, silent environment and into our everyday life. Meditation in and of itself is not the goal. Really, what we're interested in doing as we continue this practice, as we take it seriously, is that we want it to actually translate into our life so that the distinction between formal practice and living life starts to dissolve over time. Now, that being said, I do think there's something uniquely powerful with a seated formal practice. I think people who are experienced with meditation would agree with me, and you'll probably agree with me if you don't already, but there is something very powerful about just sitting down and paying attention, not worrying about anything, not worrying about doing anything, but sitting down in silence and stillness and letting that type of stimulus or lack thereof shape and purify our minds. It does so in a way that I don't think is quite repeatable with other forms of meditation, such as even like walking meditation, or you can be very mindful as you're cooking, exercising. So anyways, there is something uniquely powerful about that, and as we are practicing, we are cultivating this quality of mind that we can call mindfulness. Now, in a lot of ways, mindfulness is a buzzword in the 21st century right now. It's sort of got this like catchy vibe to it when we think about it. Like if you were to Google mindfulness, I'm sure there would be just so many generic kind of new agey or even sort of business savvy websites talking about mindfulness as though it's a fad. And I think in a lot of ways, mindfulness is a fad in that like the real power of it is lost on the masses precisely because of how popular it's getting. But for those of us that are serious about this practice, I think the best way to hold mindfulness is as a very, very powerful, important quality of mind that we are cultivating. It is the quality of mind that allows us to carry meditation off the cushion and into our everyday life. As we are cultivating mindfulness through our meditation practice, that quality of mindfulness theoretically should stay with us and inform and basically leak into the rest of our lives. So I want to go into that. Why does that make us happier? What about it actually makes us happier? Well, I want to begin this segment with a story, actually. I was eating dinner with my family, I think around 2-3 months ago. And, it was a very nice family dinner. My mom was there, my stepdad, my brother were there, and we were all just enjoying each other's company. And my mom starts telling this story about when I was a kid. Not just a kid, actually, when I was a baby. And so she was talking about little baby Ethan and how our family was so excited when I was born. She started explaining to me that my grandmother, she'd actually brought a donut for me to eat at this family gathering or whatever. And you know how grandmothers are. They like to spoil us. They like to feed us a lot of food, sometimes against our wills. From what I can tell, it wasn't force feeding. I was enjoying it as a kid. Apparently I was really enjoying it, and it was just this funny situation because, as a baby, I still don't really know how to eat, so I'm getting it all over my face. I'm having the time of my life. My grandmother's happy. We're all joyful because little baby Ethan is chowing down on a donut. However, there is something very profound about baby Ethan chowing down on a donut that I think we can all learn from. There's something deeply symbolic about that donut, actually, which is this. Before my mom told me the story about eating a donut, I had no memory, no recollection, no idea that my grandmother had given me a donut when I was a baby. There was like no recollection or memory or impression at all from what my grandmother had facilitated. And even though in the moment I was so happy, so joyful at this wonderfully profound glazed donut that tasted so good, apparently. Even though that was so satisfying in the moment, where did the donut go? Like, where did the satisfaction go? It completely evaporated. So hopefully you see where I'm going with this, but even as an adult now, my mind still craves, clings, is averse to certain experiences. I still want certain things. I would say most of us, we all have this quality of mind deep in our psyches, something that is primally conditioned to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And the way that most of us live life, if you think about it, and I think this is sort of an unconscious, but yet it is a collective way of living, we're all programmed biologically and socially to basically accumulate as many positive experiences as possible and avoid as many painful experiences as possible until we die. And that's how we define a happy life. And if that's not how we define a happy life, well, that's realistically how most of us are living life. Many, many people are chasing things like success or fame or money or sex or food or traveling. Pleasurable experiences of all kinds are available, particularly in first world developed countries. But what's interesting is even though the capacity to experience very blissful, extravagant experiences has increased, basically our standard of living has vastly increased over time, even though that is the case, our mental health is in decline collectively. So why is that? In a sense, we have more donuts than in any point in human history, but nevertheless, most of us are not happy. Well, this is where mindfulness, I think, is so important. This is where mindfulness comes in, and this is really why I don't think it's a fad, why I personally believe in its power, and why I hope that you can walk away from this video believing in its power too. But what does it even mean to be happy? Like, what does it mean to be satisfied? What does it mean to not suffer? What does it mean to truly be fulfilled? And based on the fucking hours and hours and hours I've practiced meditation at this point, and am going to continue to do so, hopefully after the hours and hours and hours you've practiced meditation, we can really begin to see that there are moments where there are peace, where there is satisfaction, where there is contentment with our direct experience. But equally, there does seem to be this primal operating system buried deep within our psyche, like I said, that is creating this system of pursuing pleasure, avoiding pain. But that system, that primal system, is not happiness. That is not human fulfillment. It is an acceptance of reality completely and fully that is fulfillment. That's what I would argue. And that's where mindfulness comes in. You know, there are a lot of spiritual teachers that talk about acceptance. They talk about how everything is perfect as it is. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to practice meditation. We don't have to worry about purifying our minds. That all we have to do is realize that this is it. That's the Neo-Advaitin sort of philosophy. You can, if you Google someone like, I'm actually not sure of any Neo-Advaitin teachers that are worth their salt. That's sort of their primary philosophy, is you just sort of have to realize there's no self and then you're good to go. But that actually is not the end of the story. Even when we realize that there's not a self, there does seem to be the grip of suffering on experience. Until the mind has been deeply purified, aka until the mind is deeply mindful, there will still be suffering. There will still be a fighting of experience. So why does meditation and why does mindfulness make us happy? Well, it's because as we cultivate this state, this quality of our minds, we're not fighting with experience anymore. So when painful situations do arise within us, the tension of resistance, the aversion that we have to the pain, and the craving that we have for comfort in the moment, it's not necessarily that those cravings and aversions disappear. I'm like averse to the flies around me. It's that the resistance to that craving and aversion goes away, and the resistance to the pain goes away. There's a deep equanimity that takes the place of our typical way of experiencing life. So nothing about life actually changes. The sun rises, sets, it rains, it's, you gotta mow the lawn, you gotta pay your bills and take care of business, but essentially the resistance to life is replaced with an equanimity to life, a deep, radical acceptance. And it's only from a position of this radical equanimity that we start to reach actual, genuine human fulfillment. And part of how I would define mindfulness is a radical equanimity with experience. You can't actually be with experience unless you are deeply accepting of it. You can't actually understand experience if you're fighting with it or if you're craving something that is not in the moment. So part of this mechanism of mindfulness that we carry into our lives from our meditation practice is precisely this transformation of equanimity that starts to inform our minds. The challenge, though, is that the only way that we can cultivate this equanimity is by paying attention to our experience. In other words, like focusing, paying attention, deeply paying attention to our body sensations, to our emotions, to our thoughts, to our mental talk, to the mental images that start circulating in our minds, the fantasies, the past memories, the ruminations, the painful sensations in our body, the pleasurable sensations in our body, the various sights and sounds that we experience. By paying attention to our direct experience during meditation, by not allowing the mind to pull at our attention, but instead by being willing to observe our mind, being willing to observe our bodies, being willing to observe our emotions. Really doesn't matter what technique you're using. As long as you're paying attention in some way, shape, or form, you are cultivating mindfulness. You are cultivating this equanimity. In these moments of meditation, we are cultivating this mindfulness, which is a necessary ingredient for human fulfillment. There cannot be human fulfillment unless there is an acceptance of experience, unless there is a deep equanimity of life in all of its flavors and forms. So instead of grasping for pleasure and being averse to pain, we are instead fully with pleasure. We are fully with pain. We are fully with our grieving. We are fully with our happiness and joy. In a sense, the transcendence of suffering does not mean that we no longer suffer. The transcendence of suffering means that we suffer more deeply. We suffer so deeply that the suffering is no longer a problem. And so therefore, we experience happiness so deeply that we're no longer actually craving for it, which is the deepest level of human happiness and fulfillment. It is a mind that is radically accepting of all and any circumstance, of ordinary states of consciousness, of radical states of consciousness, of boring and dull, tired states of consciousness. The mind that can be with any and everything is a mind that is truly happy and fulfilled. Hopefully you find this video useful in some way, shape, or form. I highly encourage you to continue your meditation practice. It will change your life. It will radically change your life. And it's also something that, if humanity is going to face the many existential threats that are quickly accelerating into our world, environmental collapse, climate change, the pollution of the oceans, the destruction of rainforests, the advancement of artificial intelligence, the advancement of gene therapy, and the ethical implications that are going to arise out of that. We're going to confront these challenges. We're not going to confront them with more technology and more power and more manipulation of our environment, the way that science has typically interacted with the world. We have enough power, we have enough intelligence, we have enough human technology. What we are lacking is wisdom. And the wisdom that we cultivate, the wisdom that is a byproduct of this mindfulness, of the mindful mind, is what we need to confront these existential threats. And seriously, like, the world has to start doing this collectively. So when you're practicing meditation, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the world. And I would encourage you, I would ask of you to take that seriously and to keep up your practice. So thank you for your practice. Thank you for who you are to have taken up this path, and thank you for who you are becoming as a result of your practice. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comment section below or shoot me an email. That's in the description. And I will see you guys in the next video. Until next time.